Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and help you engage with public policy in the great state of Texas. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and today we're excited to introduce Robert Rivera, who wears many, many hats. But among them, he is Vice President of the Synod Council of the Gulf Coast Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. He's also part of the Houston Faith Votes leadership team and part of the Houston Faith Votes cohort of congregations working on civic engagement as part of his lifetime of service to the church and justice ministries, specifically ministries related to immigrant communities. Spoiler, he's going to plug the immigration forum he's helping host on October 17th. We'll provide a link in the show notes, or you can find more information at texasimpact.org. This conversation is an important reminder of the stakes of civic engagement. From the local community to the highest office in the land, we're electing people who will impact migrant communities. As part of our faith, we owe it to our communities and our neighbors to make sure that we are participating, and that our congregations and friends and family groups understand the stakes and the issues and have a plan to vote. We've talked about it for months, and we're now only days away from early voting in Texas, so now is the time to make sure our networks have a plan to vote. Let's put it on the calendar. I'm going to vote. Well, I'll be accountable here with you all. I'm going Tuesday, October 22nd. I'll bring breakfast tacos for the friends that we're going to vote with. If you need resources or help with any of that, Texas Impact has tools for you. Check out the website at texasimpact.org and spend some time on the Texas Faith Votes page. There are resources to help you check your registration, door hanger templates, prayer resources, and so much more. Y'all, now is the time. If you have questions about any of it, shoot me an email at scott@texasimpact.org. All right, y'all, enough wind up for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Robert Rivera. Joining us for today's conversation is Robert Rivera, a lay leader in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America and part of the Houston Faith Votes leadership team. Robert, you do serve as the Vice President of the Synod Council, all things ELCA, all things civic engagement, all things voting. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Rebecca and I were talking about your history a couple of days ago as we were preparing for this, and I know you have a long history of engaging congregations in civic engagement work. Talk to us about why you were drawn to that specific ministry.
You know, I was drawn to it, I guess, because of two traditions that I'm part of. One is my faith tradition, which compels me to be part of this type of work, and the second, a strong belief in democratic principles. And I got there primarily because of my parents and their struggles that they had and their connection to the church. So over the years, that just kind of blossomed. But I would say, enriched when I went to work in San Antonio, and I was meeting families in the community, doing discussions with families. And I met a family, the Peña family, Salt of the Earth family. And they described what was going on in their community, in their neighborhood. And it reminded me so much of my parents, the struggles that they were having. And then they suddenly stopped talking to me and stood up and said, "Estás con nosotros? Are you with us? Estás con nosotros?" And it was such a powerful statement for that moment. I was young. And it just left an impression, which really decided this is where I want to be. This is the type of work that I want to do. Engaging families, engaging people around issues of justice.
I love that story. So I guess the question is, were you with them?
Yes, sir. We did a lot of work, and they had one of the things that we did. I remember the street they live on is many years ago. There's Cerralvo Street. And they had bad flooding and drainage issues. And so we worked on that together to help get them resources for their flooding issues.
Love that. Love that. So as we mentioned, you are now a leader in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Talk about your work in that context and what you're particularly passionate about.
Well, you mentioned that I'm the vice president of the Synod Council. I've been in that role for 10 years. Actually, my wife is a cradle Lutheran, so she brought me into the Lutheran Church. I come out of the Catholic tradition, but over years, she won out and got me into the Lutheran Church. But I particularly got drawn in some of the work that the ELCA does, particularly around immigration and supportive work around immigration. And so that's where I've found myself engaged with the church.
There's been a lot of talk about immigration clearly over the course of the last few months and really the last few years. And I know you've been doing a lot of educational work around immigrant rights, around immigration topics. This is one of those topics where I feel like it's especially important that people of faith speak out. And I think especially from a faith perspective, we have a story to tell on this. So why do you think that it's especially important? Why do you think it's especially important for people of faith to engage on this?
Well, one, obviously, is because of our tradition and about accompanying families, about being with families as they deal with their struggles, and particularly the immigrant community and new arrivals. I think that's essential, and that's rooted in our tradition, and we're compelled to be with them. And that's important. But I think the other thing that's important for people of faith is we have to be able to tell the truth and get facts out, and not be drawn to all the misconception and the misinformation that occurs about immigration. For example, this whole recent discussion about Springfield, Ohio, and Haitian immigrants being illegal. For one, no human being is illegal. And that is one that we should articulate and speak out about, that there's no human that's illegal. But the truth of the matter of the Haitian refugees that are there is I think they have temporary protective status, which is a status that's been given by the federal government for those countries and the people that live in those countries that migrate to the United States who have some type of disaster in their country or political turmoil. There are thousands and thousands of Haitians that are in this country because of those conditions in Haiti, and the government has granted them status. That's the kind of information that we know needs to be gotten out to the community and to our churches about immigration. And I picked on Haitians, but I could go through the laundry list of countries, and there would be some particular issue or reason why people are coming to this country.
I know for many of us, we never take our faith hat off. And so when we do advocacy work, when we do this justice work, faith is part of that. But I feel like this is one of those areas where when we speak out on immigration issues, when we speak out for these families, it's important that we advocate as people of faith and use that title, keep that hat on. Do you think that's real? Do we need churches saying things? Do we need faith leaders speaking about immigration issues from a faith perspective?
I could not imagine someone coming to our door of our church and knocking on it and saying they're a recent arrival and they need help, for us to reject that. Why would we want to do that? Why? Our principles, our values, our tradition is to be on the side of people that most need it, the most vulnerable. And someone's knocking on our door and we say, we don't want to help you because you're from another country. That doesn't make any sense to me, into my tradition and or my values. So we're compelled to assist, and we provide food when we need to provide food. We provide clothing when people need clothing. We provide financial assistance if we're able to help them with their particular needs. And we help them get their children enrolled in school and help them so their children at least have a start in life in this community. And so we work with the parents and the families to do that. But somebody knocking on our door, we're going to open that door and we're going to help, because that's what our values are and that's what our traditions are.
Talk to us about some of the congregations you've had a chance to work with. I know you've given some examples of what that might look like, but are there congregations that are doing this work, doing this ministry, doing this advocacy for immigrants and their families well? What's that look like?
Well, I think there's an underlying thread within those congregations, because they recognize it is very difficult to do this work alone. If it was just our congregation by ourselves, it's a Herculean task to try to provide all this sort. So we need to be in relationship and partnership with other congregations, and we have to help show them how they can be engaged in the community around the issues of immigration and immigration rights. And so we partner with other congregations and actively seek support from other congregations, whether it's the Lutheran tradition or Methodist or Episcopalian, it doesn't matter. We're working together around our values. And that's, to me, is the strength of who we are, because we want relationships with other congregations. We want to be engaged with others because we cannot do this work by ourselves.
Speaking of relationships with other congregations, I know you and a couple of congregations are part of the Houston Faith Votes cohort, which is a group that's doing some intentional civic engagement work to help encourage congregations and communities to vote and be engaged. What do you hope comes from that group?
One, our voice needs to be heard. And we have to be the vehicle for families that are voiceless and do not have a way to participate. We have to help be their voice. So our churches have to lead that. We have to talk about our principles and our values that are important, and we have to lift those up. Those don't get discussed much when we talk about immigration issues. Our value of about accompanying the most vulnerable, that doesn't get lifted up much. All we do is get trapped into the political crossfire of one side saying this, another side saying that, but we forget that we're knitted together by our faith traditions, and there's a way we should stand and who we should stand with and accompany those families that struggle the most. Our churches allow us to do that, and when we do that, we're stronger. And when we do that, our community is stronger. And that's the vision for me about the Houston Faith Votes.
I know you're doing some really great work, and we have a lot of faith leaders who are listening to this who I'm sure would love some ideas. So what are you seeing so far that's working well? What are y'all working on that might be able to inspire other congregations?
Well, I think that besides providing the immediate needs, which all our churches should do, food, clothing, shelter, those type of things, that every church can do that. That's something, giving food and providing food is something we should all do and share with our abundance. But I think there are other things that we can do, like help people become acclimated to the culture of our country. ESL classes to work on providing English as a second language and teach English to families, and so families can communicate in this country. That's a simple thing that can be done. Working with families in schools and providing tutoring and support to children that are struggling in school, that have difficulty understanding the work that's being assigned to them. So partnering with a child and sitting with a child and mentor that child, all of those are things that churches can do readily and easily if they have the wherewithal to do it and if they want to do it. There's a way for them to participate. And there are benefits of them for doing this, because what they're doing is bringing people in relationship to God, in relationship to a church and to a community, and that the more they do that, they're strengthening their own churches and congregations by bringing in another perspective and new ideas and new life into the church. So there's a benefit, and everyone benefits if we do this. And so we have to see it in those terms. It makes good sense for us to participate in the community.
Love that. And there's a big opportunity for a lot of folks to participate in community with you and some coalition partners coming up soon on October 17th. Talk to us about the Immigration Forum that you're providing leadership for. What is it? Who should come? What do you hope attendees get out of it?
So we're trying to provide information that I think is important for understanding the election through the immigration lens. So we'll have an immigration attorney that will talk about the law and those issues related to understanding that better. We'll have a couple of people that are DACA recipients, because I think it's important. DACA is the deferred action for young people, for dreamers, as we otherwise know them. The DACA people will talk about, they were brought to this country as a child, but they've been successful. They're graduate students. They work at the University of Houston. They're teachers. They're lawyers. They're social workers. They're engineers. They have an amazing portfolio of jobs, and we need to talk about that. And we need to talk about how they contribute to the economy of our country, and how they buy houses, they pay taxes, they do all of those things. And so we need to get that information out. So we'll have some of the DACA folks talk about that. We'll have ACLU and Texas Impact that'll be with us to talk about those issues that affect this election and what we should be concerned with, both at the national level and at the state level. And so those two are two very important sources of information that we need to get out as to laws that impact the national level and laws that impact the state level. So what we'll do is try to create a conversation around that. So we'll have the folks there necessary to create that. And we'll be reminded by our own faith tradition. We'll have Bishop Reinhardt, who will talk about why for the church this is important for us to be with and to accompany those families that come to this country. So he'll be talking about that. So that's what our hope for this session, to create this dialogue and get accurate information out, and then have some time afterwards to talk to these folks one-to-one. And so we're looking forward to the meeting.
I love that. I know our team is certainly excited about it. We'll provide a link in the show notes for folks who are interested in more information. Robert, I feel like we need to reverse hats, because I've been in a lot of Houston Faith Votes meetings where I remember you asking the question, what do we hope comes from this? What's the outcome we're desiring? So what's your hope coming out of the Immigration Forum on October 17th?
One, that people go vote and they're more informed about the immigration issue, and that they're not trapped in all this misinformation and polarization that happens. They need to go vote, and to vote their conscience, but vote knowing this is what the issue is about. One. Two is to spread the word that the church's role and responsibility and need is to be with the most vulnerable. And we need to do that. And it, yes, it's difficult. Yes, it's controversial, but that's where we belong. And that's what we need to do. And we're compelled. I use that word compelled because I mean that we are compelled to do that. And
yes,
that's what I hope comes out of it.
You were so ready for that one. I love that. Nice work. Thank you. Robert, before we let you go, any other shameless plugs, closing thoughts you want to leave us with today?
No, thank you for the support. We do a lot of our work at St. James Lutheran Church through the St. James Family Life Center. We always appreciate the support that we get for it. So thanks everyone for the support they give us our ministry here at St. James Lutheran Church.
Robert Rivera, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for your ministry, and thanks for taking the time to share with us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Scott.
I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Robert, and I hope to see some of you in Houston on October 17th. Otherwise, I hope you and your congregation are making a plan to support families in your community, and more, that you're making a plan to make sure people are preparing to vote their values this election season and beyond. As a reminder, Texas Impact has tools for you, including our new immigration team, where you can join with Texans from throughout the state who care about these issues. Check out the website at texasimpact.org to join that team or to learn about other opportunities. Again, special plug for the Texas Faith Votes resources. While you're there, I hope you'll take a moment to sign up to be a member of Texas Impact. Your membership supports this podcast and all of the work to engage Texans of faith to advocate for a more just and equitable Texas. If you have questions about any of it, please reach out. You can catch me at scott@texasimpact.org. And with that, I think it's time to close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnett, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.